Are you feeling overwhelmed? If you clicked on this video, you are probably in the throes of either creating a baby registry or maybe whittling down what you're trying to figure out what you need. Maybe you just had your baby and you're still trying to figure it out. Maybe you're just about to and you're trying to make sure you've got every last thing. The feeling of creating a baby registry in this day and age is one of the most overwhelming things. Like, I was doing a little bit of research before and kind of scripting out this video of what I wanted to mention and some of my thoughts I want to share with you guys. Having had 2 babies, and I've done videos on this topic before, and I've changed my mind about a few things. So just doing that little bit of research of just, what if you're typing in what to put on a baby registry, what are you faced with in 2024, 2025, whenever you're watching this? And oh my gosh, oh my gosh. It's just so much. Like, even if you take one item like a stroller or a car seat and you say, okay, strollers, you end up researching strollers for days. And then you're like, okay, I think I've figured out which stroller I want, add to registry, whatever. Okay, now high chairs. And then you research high chair. Like, it's so much. It's too much. And so I am hoping that this video serves as a way to kind of whittle it down to really what you need. And I'm not being super minimalistic saying all you need is, I don't know why, but I always rolled my eyes when people would say, please, all you need for a baby is onesies and bottles and burp cloths. That's it. I'm like, no, you're discounting all of those bigger items you literally need. So I'm not going to do that to you. I'm going to share specific items I recommend, and I'm going to be really honest about the way I've spent my money in the past and some regrets I have. So I hope you're here for that. If you are, I want to take a second to say, please subscribe, stick around, especially if you're about to have a baby. I do vlogs all the time just about our life, but I've also shared videos about baby items, postpartum things, pregnancy things. I will link any of my videos related to this topic down below if you want to check them out. Like I said, I've changed my mind about a few of the things. So if you go deep dive and you might be like, wait a minute, she's just, okay. Bear with me, I'm changing and growing, okay? The impetus for this video was I was going through all that I have stored for babyhood, right? So I was going through it because my sister had recently had a baby. She was borrowing some of the things, which I love that those items are getting more life to them. But we're kind of in that stage of like, maybe we want to try for another one, we're not sure. So we have 2 kids right now. We're keeping all of those just in case. And going through and tabulating how much money I spent on all of these items was honestly, like, I want to say embarrassing, but I don't think that's the right word because you kind of have to. Like, some of the items I bought, I regret, and I'll explain. But there are a lot of things a baby needs. And in this day and age, you feel that pressure to be like, well, to be a good parent, I have to buy all of these things and the best of the best, when really many of us can't afford it. It's so much money, like it's so much money. So I want to share some key thoughts to kind of get you in the right mindset as you're going through this process of creating a registry and figuring all of that out, because even if you're not doing a registry, if you're just trying to get the items yourself, because these are some things I wish someone had told me when I was going through this. Okay, so I'll be your big sis, little sis, aunt, cousin, whatever, and I'm gonna help you out. First thing to keep in mind, you don't need everything right away. So think about this example, a high chair. You will not use a high chair until at a minimum 6 months. And even then, it might be later than that. So that is something that you can put on your registry, like if someone was wanting to buy for you, absolutely. But when it comes to you and thinking of like, okay, I'm budgeting for what we need to get, and I'm like, what can you cut and pay for later on down the road? A high chair is a really good example. So just think about, what are these items? Like, let's say you had your baby shower and there's still these big ticket items that you're like, okay, how are we going to do this? And you're budgeting. Really think through, what can we wait on? What could we pay for in 4 months instead of everything right now? Plus, another thing to keep in mind that I wish I would have known, especially the first time around, there is some joy in going out to Target or to a store to get like, oh, you know what? We need another pair of pajamas, or we need a new swaddle, and getting to take an hour to go out and go pick that out once you've had the baby. And I feel like I always felt like, no, I want to be in. This is going to be a long video. I'm going to tell you right now. Sorry. This is going to be a long video. My thing is, I always thought that I would want everything done so that way I wouldn't need to leave the house for months and months and months. But the reality is, I didn't take into account that I might want to have an excuse to leave the house. And if possible, like to have an hour where the baby stays home with their dad and I can go have an hour to grab a coffee and go shop for these couple items we need. So don't take that joy away from yourself. It's nice to have some holes in what you need, especially if it's not something you need right away. And the other thing to keep in mind, of course, too, we live in an era where we can get anything delivered. I remember giving birth to Felicity. I had a C-section because she was breech. If you want to see more on that and like our chatting through all that, I will link that video too. I remember ordering stuff from Amazon while in the hospital to be delivered to our house. I'm like, it is amazing that we live in this time. So that pressure to make sure everything's in line. Yes, you probably feel that pressure from just nesting, but just keep in mind, like, it's okay. You can order it and get it there the next day, you know? I'm looking over here because I have my notes over here. Another thing to ask yourself when you're thinking through, especially some of the more expensive items, are you planning to or hoping to have more than one baby? Because if this is your first baby, you might be thinking, well, this is it. And so then maybe buying these high ticket expensive versions of items, it doesn't make sense. But if you know you're going to use it for more than one kid or you're hoping to, then that might play into your decision-making process of, do we want to get this version that maybe is better made? Not always. We'll talk about that too. So just something to keep in your mind. And on that note, dupes nowadays are good. Like, they are very good. And we're going to talk about a few very specific dupes that I would recommend. They have gotten really good. So that pressure to buy the one you've seen everyone using that's like $1,200, etc., that perhaps I myself maybe now regret buying, the dupes are really good. Of course, buy secondhand anytime you can. I was recently listing some items on like Facebook Marketplace, baby items, and I'm looking through and I'm like, oh my gosh, you can get unbelievable deals on, you know, used for a year or gently used items, especially these name brand ones. If your heart is set on one specific thing, look on there first. You would be astounded because think about it. Everyone around you that's had a baby, eventually they're out of that baby phase and they've got to do something with these things that they spent all this money on, but they also want to get rid of it. So there's so much on Facebook Marketplace. The bassinet we ended up getting on there for well, I shouldn't say a steal, but for a deal, which is amazing. Another thing, you're probably being targeted ads that are all like baby focused, pregnancy focused, postpartum, anything that you don't need right now and you're not necessarily going to put on your registry, but you don't want to forget about, take a screenshot of it, create a little folder in your photos album of, you know, baby product screenshots. Put them all in there, because for me, when I would see targeted ads, and this is true for anything in life, not just baby stuff, I would feel that pressure to like, well, I better buy it now because I might not see this ad again. I'm not going to remember what this was. But ever since I started just doing screenshots and saving them in an album, then I don't feel that pressure to like, I don't want to lose this one thing, what it was called or what it looked like, whatever. That is a great way to release yourself from that temptation, but still be able to find what it was when and if you did want to actually purchase it. And once you've thought about it for more than like 10 seconds, you know? And the other thing is, at the end of the day, if you're feeling that pressure to always get the name brand of something or whatever, when you know like the other version's gonna do just fine, keep in mind that no one is asking like, oh, you got the dupe brand, or oh, you got the cheaper, oh, you didn't get, no one's asking that. No one cares. And like, if I'm really honest with myself, any of my friends that have recently had a baby, I'm trying to think like, could I even tell you, have I even noticed what kind of playmat they have or crib or pack and play or anything? No, I have no idea. And I'm even in this world where I like look into this stuff. I have no idea what any of them use. Like, no one really cares. It really is just for you and your partner and your baby, and it's really no one else's business. Let's dive into my top 15 essentials. These are really the things that, keeping in mind everything I just told you, what I think you probably do need. And within this, I'm going to be sharing maybe some things that you probably don't, or you might at least give it a second thought. And my recommendation, we're going to be talking about a lot of bigger ticket items. Always keep in mind, especially if you're creating a baby registry, and I know most of you guys already know this, but having lower price items on there, because most of the people coming to your registry probably are not trying to shill out a couple $100s, right? Especially if it's not someone super close to you, like your mom or whatever. So it's always nice to have a good range of things on there. Pacifiers, bottles, burp cloths. That way no one kind of feels shut out. Anyway, okay. Number one, this is a weird one to start on, but you know what? It was the first one that came to mind. A diaper pail. You must have one. And for the whatever reason, I thought we wouldn't need one. I'm like, oh, that's just kind of like superfluous. Like, we don't need one. We can just use a trash can. No, you need one. And if I'm being honest as well, I never got the diaper genie thing because I'm like, you have to buy the special refills and it just seems like so much. If I could do it all over again, I might have gotten the diaper genie because I do think those do the best job at trapping the smell. However, we've always used, like, I think it's the Uppababy brand. Anything I mentioned specifically, I will link below so that you can find it. If you do, by the way, click any of the links I mentioned. I may make a small commission. I appreciate it. It doesn't charge you anything extra. It supports me and my channel. I like to say that, especially in a video where there may be new viewers. Anyway, I like the one we have because you can just use regular trash bags with it. However, I do think after many years of use, it does kind of hold that smell inside. But when you open it to change the trash can, like it does have that smell in there. So just keep in mind, it is what it is. And honestly, for the convenience of being able to use just kitchen trash bags I buy in the giant pack at Costco, it's worth it. But diaper pail came to my mind first because you will use it for many years. It is one of the longest usage items you will buy or register for because they're not potty trained until 2, 3, and sometimes 4. So that's a lot of years. And then especially if you think about like, and we're maybe having another, like that is gonna get used for a lot of years. So buy one that you like, but definitely get a diaper pail. Okay, let's tackle the car seats, okay? We are a family that love the Doona. However, and that thing, I mean, really, that is genius. I looked up today, there's a dupe for it. It's from Evenflow. Honestly, when it's not on sale, it's close to the same price as the Doona, but I looked it up and on Amazon right now, and I don't know when you're watching this, but on Amazon, it's like 20% off. So it was like $400, which is still an insane amount. $400 instead of like the $550 that the Doona is. So they already have dupes going around for this, which is really exciting. I would also say the Doona is something that I see being resold a lot secondhand. So you could really get a deal on it. Now keep in mind, car seats, safety, do your due diligence, find out how old it is, you know what I mean? Those kinds of things, but you really can get a good deal on Doonas. And those, by the way, most of you guys probably have heard of it now, but it's a car seat that also like you pop a thing out and it becomes a little stroller. I'm telling you, for all those doctor visits, all of those times like trips or little things to the store, to just be able to do that is amazing. But also no, the Doona is not the be all end all. There are a million different versions of like just a little pop-up frame that's almost as easy as the Doona where you just like stick it into there. So it's not like it's the Doona or bust. There are so many other versions of it. And if you already have your heart set on a certain car seat, look into that car seat, or maybe you've already gotten one, and see what would work with that. Is there a frame that I can just snap it into and then be able to push it around? So that brings into mind the next one, which is a stroller. I have tried 6, 7 strollers. I know that's insane. I know that's insane. We travel a lot, so we've done a lot of research into travel strollers. I'm not going to talk much about that. I will link my personal favorite travel stroller that we have ever owned down below. Again, it's pricey, but for us, we travel a lot and we use it a lot. So with strollers, you can get a stroller that has the clip-in so that you can just take your car seat and clip it into that stroller. So you do have to do the research, but that's also an option. So I want to reiterate that the Doona is not the be-all end-all. I love it, but it's not... Not everyone needs to have it, you know what I mean? And if you also know, like, you know what, in those first 6, 7, 8 months, we're not gonna be leaving the house much, then you really don't need to worry about it. But I feel like there are just those things you always end up leaving the house for, like all the doctor visits early on, you know? So with the stroller, one thing to keep in mind is, do you have multiple kids? Are you planning to? Because then I would recommend looking into a stroller that has the capability to transform from a single to a double stroller, and it can do various ages and it can face different ways. So the one that I love, but I do regret spending the money on, if I'm really honest with myself, is the Uppababy Vista. I did all that same research a lot of you guys are doing right now between that one and the Mockingbird. And in the end, I've told myself, well, we're going to use it for many years, and we do. But it is a beast of a stroller. So I'm thinking, oh, we'll use it for travel. And we have done some travel with it, like to Disney, for example. But as a general rule, it is not a small stroller. So then I'm spending money on a travel stroller. And I just wish I would have done more thinking about how I personally would use the stroller. You know what I mean? And on that vein, I tried the Mockingbird, the dupe for it, and it is so nice. It is so nice. And as I'm like pushing that around, I'm thinking to myself, this is what I should have bought. This is what I should have bought. It is so similar to it and it is so much cheaper. So if you're in that battle, if I could do it all again, I would buy the Mockingbird. There you go. But even the Mockingbird is still pricey. There's so many other strollers out there. You guys, once you start using whatever stroller you end up buying or registering for or getting, you're not really gonna care. You're no longer gonna be thinking about all the things you're thinking about right now, like, oh, I've gotta make sure it's got this. I would say my biggest recommendations when you're picking a stroller is make sure there's a big enough bottom, because you will be putting so much junk down there. So much junk. So I would say the bottom is important, how easily it folds and unfolds and how smooth it rides. Other than that, you can buy accessories for things, you can jazz it up, but how smooth the ride is, the bottom area, and then what else did I just say? How easily it folds up and down. Those are the big things. Okay. Crib. A lot of you guys you might already have a crib at this point. I feel like that's one of those purchases you might register for, I guess, but I feel like a lot of times you just end up buying it, or maybe like I picture a grandparent like buying it for you and like you get it set up a little earlier. I don't know. Point is, ours was a hand-me-down one and I couldn't tell you where it's from, anything like that. But what I do know is that those crazy, crazy, crazy expensive cribs, I mean, they all do the same thing. I guess that's the bottom line. If you find a crib you like the look of and you know it's safe, they all do exactly the same. None of them have like a ton of bells and whistles generally. Like there might be one that could transform into a toddler bed, but then you have to wonder like, well, am I going to have another? Because then you're still gonna need the crib. So then you'd still need to get a toddler bed. So there's a lot of things to think about, but I just feel like as a general rule, you do not need to drop a bunch of money on a crib. That's really it. I'm like, that one that's crazy expensive out there, I can't think of the name. Wow. Okay, bassinet. And you're gonna judge, I can feel it already. We got the Snoo secondhand on Facebook Marketplace, and it was a good deal. I mean, it was a good deal, especially compared to the ridiculous original price. I would not have ever paid the original price, I will tell you that, and I would never tell anyone that it's worth it. The nice thing is, my sister's able to use it, and so it's getting other use, and the resale value holds pretty well, especially if you bought it used and it wasn't as expensive to begin with. I think if you are buying it brand new, yes, the resale value will be higher, but it's still going to be maybe not as high as you want it. So I would say if you were dying to get the Snoo, please don't buy it new. I know they have that rental program. I don't know if they're still doing that. And I had considered that, but then I thought, well, if I use it for X amount of months, like I might as well buy, if I could do it all over again though, I would buy the most simple bassinet. Maybe one that has like a fold down part so it's easy to get them out of. But you guys, that bassinet, you are done with that so fast. You will blink and you'll be like, and we're done with the bassinet. Like it's so fast. So if I could just hold Jessie of like a couple years ago and be like, you don't just grab my cheeks. You don't need that. So that is one that, like I said, we still have. And if we have another, we would use it again, but I will be excited to resell that. Okay. I know you guys are judging me. This is why I needed to have this conversation with you, because I don't want you to make the same mistakes I did. Let's talk clothing. If you have not had your baby shower, you will end up getting more clothing than you will know what to do with. It won't all get worn. It will break your heart because some of it will be very cute. You really don't need to register for cute outfits. Unless there was one you were dying for, they will be bought for you anyway. And if not, then again, that's like a fun thing you can pick out. I wouldn't stress about that at all. Definitely, obviously, what everyone says, sleepers, zippers, or magnets only. No buttons. You will regret it. You will regret it. It may be a little bit cheaper. You'll regret it. Better to have just 3 zippered footies that you can wash than like 6 cheaper snap ones, I'm telling you. And another thing to keep in mind with clothes is like, really when they're that young, the only clothes they're wearing are like onesies and sleepers, and that's pretty much it. And keeping in mind that you will do laundry at least every week. You'll end up probably doing it twice a week, maybe more depending on your situation. And so you don't need 15 sleepers for each size. You just don't. You don't even need 10. I would say just buy a few, see what you actually like, and then double down on that. But just knowing that the laundry can always be done unless you're in a situation where getting laundry done is a big hassle, then maybe it is worth having more. But as a general rule, you probably don't need as many as you think you do. And that brings me to the next one, which is swaddles. I, at some point, I think I've tried them all. The Ollie Swaddle, Halo Sleep Sack, oh boy, there's so many. I genuinely think, you guys, the Snoo ones, of course, that like attached to that. I think that I would just buy a couple or register for a couple, like maybe one Halo Sleep Sack that's got the, and then if you're dying to try the Ollie one, a lot of people swear by it. I remember liking it okay, but I think by the time I finally tried it, we were nearly done with swaddling, so I didn't get a lot of experience with it. Both of my girls ended up loving the Halo Sleep Sack. So those are the ones I'll link below, especially like the microfiber, like warm, cozy one, not microfiber, you know what I mean. Warm, cozy ones. I liked that as they got bigger, they could have their arms out with the same exact swaddle and just do the Velcro underneath the armpits. It was perfect. Or if you have a baby that likes one arm out, you can do that. Like, it just felt so versatile. And so that is basically what we doubled down on. And that is all we use as a general rule eventually. But my point is, I wouldn't go crazy on buying a ton of different or registering for a ton of different sleep sacks, because you'll kind of find what your baby actually likes, or swaddles, etc. And then you could maybe buy more from there. I will say one of the most underrated pajama items, I mean, it usually be for when they're a little bit bigger, although I guess you could use them at any time. They're those ones, I'll see if I can find them on Amazon and link them below. They're those like long sleeve, I feel like Carter's would make them, long sleeve sacks. We loved those in our household, like for a long time, because they could have their jammies on underneath, but it's a built-in blanket, just like a sleep sack. But I loved the ones that had the long sleeves. I just felt like they were so cozy in them. I want one, you know? Let's talk diapers and wipes. I mean, diapers will be the most expensive thing anyway in the end because of how many you end up buying over the years. One thing I was thinking about this morning, and I can't decide if it's a great idea or a terrible idea, is to ask people for gift cards for diapers, because obviously you don't really know how your baby's skin will react, or even just like their bathroom habits. Like, I feel like certain brands for us did not work for either the girls. We have ended up with Pampers Swaddlers. I'm looking at a box that's holding like old clothes right now, old baby clothes, for all of this time, because those to us, and this is personal, have, you know, never leaked. They always hold everything. And anytime I try another brand, I'm like, no. So, but everyone has their own needs. So my point is, maybe ask for like smaller packs of different brands, so you could like try the different ones without a huge commitment. But the reason I even hesitate is just that I'm like, diapers though, you're gonna go through them anyway, unless there's like some severe allergic reaction. You're gonna go through them anyway, and it's nice to have a bunch already ready to go for you. So I think maybe if it's someone that would be willing to get you a gift card, so then you could spend it on anything, but also on diapers. But definitely, I mean, diapers and wipes. If you're curious, like I said, Pampers Swaddlers, and then we like the Huggies natural wipes. They're like in the green. Those are like thick. They do not rip. Those things I have loved for so many years. And same thing, when I try other ones, I'm like, they're not as good as the Huggies ones. Okay, changing pads. I have some thoughts that you might maybe haven't thought of with this. So I know there's like that famous peanut, whatever it's called, changing pad thing that's super expensive. And there's other versions. There's the Hatch scale one, which we had, but I'm pretty sure the scale broke and I don't know what to do. So right now my sister's using it just as a changing pad, but honestly, that was a godsend when I was having a lot of feeding troubles, trying to get like a better weight. But what we ended up using is just like a $10 squishy changing pad thing from, I think, IKEA. And then we bought on Amazon changing pad covers, and they're really, really like soft and kind of velvety. And what I've realized over the years is when I would change them on the harder one, the Hatch one, they cry like it wasn't comfortable. It's a hard surface. It's kind of cold, and you're doing something they already don't want you to do. Whereas when I would put them on the squishy soft one with like the soft cover, they don't usually cry. I mean, there's always those times, but I really feel like having a comfy, it feels like they're laying on a bed. It's just as easy to change and just wash that little cover. I really think there's something to that. So consider, I know a lot of people want the like really cool looking aesthetic one, but I don't even, like I said, I think my sister has that. We exclusively use the soft, squishy, cheap one because it's the one they like and they cry the least, and that's really all that matters. Woo! Are you still there? Told you it's a long one. Okay, your diaper bag. This is an important decision because you will use this every single day for a long time. Again, this is one of those items, the bassinet you only use for a few months. A diaper bag you will use for probably years. I have tried a lot of the big ones. I've tried the Dagne Dover. I've tried the Calpac one that I love. The actual setup of it is amazing, but I was complaining on my Instagram stories. It stains so easily. So I love the actual bag though. I wish they'd make it out of a different material, but I do love it. But the one that I've had the least complaints about that I've used the longest is from Lullababy. I know I used to have like a % off code. I might still, if I do, I'll put it below. But that one, they have the cutest colors. I feel like they have a smaller one and a larger one. At this point, I use like the smaller size. Even the Calpac one is smaller, but that's the one I usually used. But when it's your first baby, I feel like you just end up carrying around a little bit more, which is fine. Their larger one is great. And it's just pretty, it's well thought out. That's just one I have gone back to time and time again. So that's one I would recommend to most people. The Dagne Dover one, I don't know if they have more than one size. The one I have is big. It is big. And so we'll use it sometimes for travel. But again, that's one of those I am probably going to resell eventually because it's sitting in the closet. And I'm like, again, that's one you might be able to find those kinds of things if you were dying for that. Resold. So just a little addendum to this is not a separate one, but just in addition, look into finding a small diaper and wipe clutch. We have both found that having something we can just grab that already has the diapers and wipes and diaper cream and like little bags all together in it to take the kid to the bathroom or the baby to the bathroom to change them has been so much easier than bringing the entire diaper bag in the restaurant all the way to it. It's just nice to grab the small thing that's got everything you need. So the one I currently have, I don't know if it's still sold, but I love it. And if I ever lost it, I don't know what I would do. So if it is still sold, I'll find it. But yeah, it's really nice to have it all contained. And there's so many different versions of them. A swing or a bouncer. I think out of all of the things we bought, the bouncer got more use. Okay, whoa, not out of all of the things. I mean like in the realm of like containers. There's really no better way to say it. But when you're like, okay, I need to get a shower, I have to put this baby somewhere, but I need to be able to see them, I need to know they're safe. The bouncer, we got like the cheaper one, not the Baby Bjorn, the cheaper one, and we love it so much, so much. So I'll link that one. That got more use than the swing. I do like the swing. We've tried the Momaroo, hated it. Neither of them liked it. The Fisher-Price one is the best one. It does all of the things. I feel like they nailed it when they created it decades ago, and it is still the best one out there, and it's certainly cheaper than the Momaroo. So, and that is one you can definitely get a steal on secondhand, and you can take all the components off and wash them. So buying it secondhand, I feel like is no big deal. That is amazing, but if you're like having to choose between the two, I would choose the bouncer, honestly. Plus the bouncer you can move from room to room. You can also get a clip-on thing. On Amazon, there's a million kinds where it clips onto any bouncer that they're sitting in and then they can kind of play with it. Okay, crib sheets, blankets, burp cloths. You are going to get, let's just take blankets, for example. I'm combining all of these kind of as like a textile, you know. You will get so many blankets if you do have a baby shower because they're gonna round out their like little order and they're gonna be like, oh, that blanket's cute, let's just get that. You will have too many blankets. So I would not register for more than like one, maybe two. I just feel like that is such a go-to gift for a lot of people. So you'll end up with more blankets than you could ever use. And if you're gonna register for a blanket, register for like a nice swaddle blanket that you could use as like a nursing cover. If you're nursing, you could use it, just lay down on the floor. You could swaddle them in it. Like you could use it as a burp cloth. I feel like those are amazing. I can link some of my favorites below that are like the super stretchy, wonderful kind. Crib sheets, I do have a favorite. I recommend to everyone I know that is having a baby because I really do think part of why our girls slept pretty well, I mean, if you ask me in those moments, I'd be like, no, I sleep terribly. But I think as a general rule, they sleep pretty well, is the sheets that we used for them when they were younger, and we still do with our 2-year-old, are these like soft, again, kind of like a velvety velour feeling. Again, on Amazon, they're so comfy. So when I lay them down, it doesn't feel cold. It feels warm and cushy, like it's still safe. I just love these so much. So that is just what we've used for so many years. Once I discovered them, I learned they have like a portable crib size. So I got one of those for when we travel and have a pack and play. That's the same feeling of like the changing pad liner. I really just went in on this like comfy velour. I feel like velour doesn't sound right. You'd have to feel it to know what I mean. Same with burp cloths. You'll probably get some. Burp cloths can be as inexpensive as you want them to. I mean, you can get really cute ones and do your thing, but you really don't need more than like 4 or 5. And even that, I feel like, because even if they spit up all over it, you still got a bunch on backup. And if they just spit up a little bit, you end up folding it and just using it more for the rest of the day. So you don't need like 15 of them, I guess is it. At some point, I think I had 15 because someone had made like really sweet personalized ones and I loved those. So then the other ones I had, I feel like I didn't use as much because I wanted to use those, and then I just had too many. I am so glad I remembered to add this. A comfy rocking chair. It does not have to be crazy expensive, or at least some kind of comfy chair. With our first, we had this wooden classic rocking chair that was not, it's actually an heirloom and we love it and we've kept it. But we had it in the nursery thinking, okay, that's, I'll feed her there or we'll rock her to sleep. That chair was so uncomfortable. And so anytime we'd have to go in there in the middle of the night, we're both like, oh, I don't want to, because I'm picturing myself in that chair. And obviously there's a lot more that goes into in the middle of the night, I don't really want to go in there. No, it's your turn. No, it's your turn. No, it's your turn. But looking back, I realized that chair was so uncomfortable. I hated sitting in it, and it was hard on the side. So trying to hold her up for a long period of time. So I'd rest my elbow, but then my elbow would hurt. I asked for a comfy rocking chair for when I was pregnant with our second one, because I thought, I really think that is going to make all the difference. And you know what? It did. Feeding her in there was so much more comfortable. Now, even still in the middle of the night, if she wakes up, I don't mind going in there and holding her because I'm like, this is comfy. I could sleep in this. You know what I mean? There's so many different ones at different price points, but get some version of a comfortable rocking chair for yourself. You will thank yourself later, I promise. And then if you get a chair that's kind of innocuous enough, you could use it in another room in the future. You know what I mean? It doesn't just have to be for a nursery situation. For the bath, this mesh bath thing is the only option. I'm getting some of you guys upset right away. I've tried a lot of the different ones. This one is genius because you can use it with virtually any size baby. I mean, obviously when they're teeny tiny, you're kind of holding them in there anyway, but you know what I mean? Pretty quickly you can use this one. And any of the ones where you have to put water in it and it's a whole thing, no. You're not gonna wanna have to deal with that. There's one less thing that you don't need to deal with during this time. This one is amazing because it dries quickly. You can store it easily. It just goes in the regular bath. So you're just using the regular bath to fill up, and they're comfy in it. I mean, I'll usually pour warm water over it so it's not cold, but it's flexible enough. It's not super flexible, but it's flexible enough that they can kind of sit back in it. As you're rinsing them off, the water just runs through it. It is such a simple invention that is so perfect. So if you're looking at a bunch of different ones, that is the only one you need, I promise. Again, that's one of those that I tell everyone I know that's having a baby, this is the only one you need. I'm probably driving them nuts, but I got crib sheets and I got the bath. I got those down. Okay, of course, bottling items. I would recommend, as many people do, if you're gonna register for STUM, don't register for 3 packs of 5 different brands. Register for one from a couple different brands, or if they have those variety packs, you've seen, that's perfect. I feel like bottles are very personal for babies, and babies are yes, they are. And they end up glomming onto what they like and they refuse what they don't. And so I feel like you don't wanna just put all your eggs in one basket. And so just get a variety pack. Don't register for too many. That's an easy thing that you could go out or order later once you know what your baby likes, and it could be there within hours. You know what I mean? But also keeping in mind drying rack, sterilizer, those are optional things. We never owned a sterilizer. I would say in my group of friends, I know one that had a sterilizer. I don't think they're a bad thing, but obviously you're still gonna sterilize your bottles. You're gonna make sure they're clean, but it just wasn't something that we ever ended up doing, and I have never really missed having it. So if you're looking for things to cut, that might be one. I do think having a bottle drying rack is kind of nice because you end up with all these little pieces and it's nice to have a place for them to dry, but you probably don't need a ginormous one. I feel like a small one is plenty. And then this might be pushing me to 16, I'm realizing. I've lost count. A baby carrier. I almost cut this one off, but I was like, you know what? We used it so much. I think it's worth mentioning. Our favorite is the Ergobaby Embrace. We used it for quite a while. I've owned different versions, and this is the only one we ended up using. I've had the wrap ones. We could never quite get that right, so I know a lot of people love them. You do you. But the reason I like the Ergo Baby Embrace is because it's literally a hybrid between the wrap kind and the super rigid, crazy, a million strap ones. It is the perfect hybrid, so you can use it for a long time. We used it right away and we used it for a long time. And it was amazing. We would travel with it. It held them close. It was really comfy for them, but then it was still sturdy where it needed to be. Perfect. It's the perfect carrier. So another thing I feel like this isn't on the list, but just adding a couple more things you might reconsider. A pacifier holder, I've realized, like the cutesy ones. I mean, by all means, do you if you want it. It's not hurting anything and it's not super expensive. But that's one of those things I've owned one of and I never used because the pacifiers we used with both girls, when you'd buy like a 2-pack, it came in like this plastic case that I would store them in and just have that in the diaper bag, and it was easy to clean that. And I would always wonder with the pacifier ones, some of them I'm like, they're kind of fabric. I'm like, I don't know how clean it is in there at this point. Like, how do I even clean this? So it was just kind of nice to have the plastic one. There's 2 in there. It's in the diaper bag. It's protected. And then a wipe warmer is one. I feel like people disagree about wipe warmers. You either feel one way or the other. I've used them for like one with, I don't even remember which baby. I think they can have a benefit where it's kind of nice to have warm wipes in the middle of the night or anytime. But then the other argument is like, but then they get used to it. I think babies can get used to and unused to things all the time. They have to all the time anyway. So I don't think that would be a reason to not do it. It was nice to have, but it's really not a necessity. Like I said, I don't remember which baby we used it on. I don't even think we used it on our second, and she never, I mean, it just was what it was. So she doesn't know what she doesn't know. I mentioned this earlier, but there's so much pressure to make sure you've got the best for your baby, and you can feel like, well, if I can't afford that, or I mean, this is all so much at the same time. And you feel like, well, to be a good parent, I want to make sure I've got everything and the best for my kids. They don't know. They don't care. Your baby at no point, like even my 6-year-old has no idea what I bought for her when she was a baby and this, that, and the other, or if it was used or not, or if it was the name brand or a dupe or whatever. She has no clue. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, like, you know what you can afford. Buying baby items and getting yourself into debt over it, or, really hurting your bank just to be able to get this thing that you may or may not use. You just have to be really honest with yourself about like, I want it all, but what do I really, really need? So I'm hoping that this video was helpful. I hope that me trying all of these various items over the years was helpful. Please someone tell me it was helpful. And always keep in mind, like if you do get things and you're like, okay, I did buy that expensive one and you use it and you love it, reselling is always an option eventually. So you can recoup some of the loss, if you will. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you check out, like I said, some of my other videos. I will link any of my baby related, pregnancy related, etc. videos below. And if you are a new mom, or a new parent, I would say, or you're in the postpartum period, or maybe you're like many of you in the baby registry period, check out my favorite video I've ever done, which is a video about this idea of matrescence. It's the process of actually becoming a mom. And it was really emotional for me to do that video. And it was a lot. It was kind of a labor of love type of project. And I hope you'll watch it because I really do think it will color the way you look at your postpartum period. And I don't just mean the emotions of it, but I mean so much more than that. Your identity will shift. You will feel it. And sometimes it's nice to have names and terms and an expectation of things from a little bit of a different perspective. So I'll link that video because I'm really proud of it and I hope you guys will check it out. I hope it helps you out. And yeah, thanks for watching all the way to the end and I will see you in my next one. Bye.